Hello everyone, welcome to another video. This is the Game Review Show, and I know I've been out for a long time. And I'm not gonna lie, it did take me 7 months to get out of Dr. Amigo's basement. He's got some really hardcore security, but we're here now, and I am going to show you guys my new setup. I'm gonna be talking about why you should definitely shop for video games and consoles at a thrift store. But first of all, let's check out my new setup. This is my new setup. It is completely different, and I am totally digging it. I had 2 other setups before this, but I didn't record them at all. But this is like what we have for right now. My dog just walked in when I was recording. What are you eating? He's crazy. So I got an Atari, a GameCube, and a VCR up there. Moving down, I have a Xbox, Sega Genesis. Well, my NES got a little paint job over the break, and a Nintendo 64. So this is the new Game Boy stand. It also sits next to my television games. In here I just have my old games that I had before. The only new thing added into here are just the DS games and 3DS games. So all my games are now in a shelf, and before I stopped recording videos, I didn't have any PS2 games, but over the time I managed to get some PS2 games. Well, my NES library is a little bit smaller. I did sell a couple games, but I did get Castlevania 1, 2, and 3. And sitting at the end was a VHS I found at the Thrift, which is pretty cool. It's like $1, so. Moving on, I have my Atari 2600 shelf. I think I have like 30 games in here. I'm not sure. And recently I got Star Wars for the 2600. So this is my last and most empty shelf. It's CDs and my Sega games, but since they are a little bit smaller, I kind of just put them inside of this thing because I don't have that many, and I don't want to put them on a shelf either. So on the top shelf are PS1 games. This is Frogger, probably my favorite one. Also, I just store music up on here. And look, it's me in the background. Why you should definitely try buying games at the thrift store. My experience personally, it's been really good. I mean, this is so far what I've gotten recently. Most of it is on a price that I would say is definitely a bargain. I want to share this with other people so they can also have their opportunity of being able to get good games at super affordable prices. The thing about buying video games at the thrift store is that it's a really big hit or miss. Because yes, that's happened to me too. Sometimes I go in expecting I'm going to find, Pokemon Stadium. And all I find is like 50 copies of Madden 2003. Most thrift stores are starting to auction off all their stuff either on their sites or on eBay. So most of this stuff never appears on shelf. And that's why it's such a low percentage that you're not going to find it. But if you do, you get good stuff. And that's why I wanted to make this video. If you want to get into PS1 games, thrifting is definitely a good choice. It's going to be a little bit harder. You're not going to find them as much as you find these type of games that come in the plastic casing. But I can say if you do find them, usually they'll market them as regular CDs, not video games. So they'll be priced at $1, 99 cents for a PS1 game. Now, obviously, people aren't going to donate their super expensive PS1 games, but look, I didn't have a library before, and now I have a miscellaneous library of 6 PS1 games. But if you don't really have a library and you want to get started, this is a good way to start. Now, if you haven't had any luck at all finding any games at your local thrift store, here are some tips. Tip number 1 is definitely checking out other stores. Don't stay local. If you want to get these good finds, you're going to want to go out maybe to the next town or two. So this tip would be really helpful if you haven't had any luck at your local thrift store. Tip number 2, I would say just wait it out and keep trying. You never know what could come through these doors. Tip number 3, look thoroughly. Sometimes when I'm browsing over a shelf, I tend to miss games. Take your time and look through all the games thoroughly. There's been times where I've gotten a couple GameCube games and I didn't even know they were GameCube because sometimes there's a label over them, or maybe they're upside down. But you definitely want to take a look at every single thing that you think that looks like a game. Because usually they're mixed in with movies and other DVDs, so you want to be reading carefully through the spines. Tip number 4, check the electronics section. Now this is not for all thrift stores, but for this one in particular, I found this Xbox over by the electronics section. There's been some times where I've seen people pick out PS2s or PS1s, so you always want to be digging through and seeing if there's stuff in the back or stuff under stuff, because not only can you find these consoles, but sometimes I found GameCube controllers, PlayStation controllers, Xbox 360 controllers, and even Xbox original controllers. Just any type of controller usually end up in the electronics section, thrown in, mixed around with other mouses and keyboards. So always look thoroughly, see if you can find one of those controllers. And for my last tip, tip number 5, is always check the clear glass case in the front. Any cartridge-based game that I've bought from a thrift store is usually always in the clear case. So not only with the Nintendo 64 games, maybe if there's a Sega game or maybe a Super Nintendo game, usually they'll end up in the glass case. So you definitely want to be checking the clear case. Anyway, that concludes my discussion about buying video games at thrift stores. I just wanted to share this with you guys because, you know, I'm finding all these good stuff at thrift stores, and I'm pretty sure there's game collectors out there or people who just want to start getting into it. Was the reason why I made this video. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. This is the Game Review Show, and I'll see you in the next video because this time I'm actually posting.